So I guess we'll get started. My piece is very quick, so I'm going to introduce two wonderful people who work with us here at Shenandoah. So as you can see on your screen, the seal. By the way, my name is Ron Agostinoni. I'm the principal here at the high school, if we have not met at some point. You're going to learn about two diploma endorsements, two seals, Biliteracy and Civic Readiness. We're talking about them at faculty meetings as well. They're relatively new. The Civic Readiness, congratulations to Lisa Kissinger, who kind of brought it here as a pilot, leading the way in the state, one of our leading schools. And Sarah Cioffi, our administrator for world language, brought Seal Biliteracy to us a couple of years ago, and we've been moving right along with hundreds of students earning it. So our academic administrators, Lisa Kissinger and Sarah Cioffi, will be presenting. I'm unfortunately going to have to jump off because I am going to another event that started 2 minutes ago here at Shen. But if you ever have questions for me, let me know. And Sarah and Lisa, thank you so much. And I'm sure it's going to be a great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ron, for that lovely introduction. Welcome, everybody. I'm trying to juggle a little bit here, getting started with our presentation and also admitting folks that are trying to get into the room. So I'm going to try to do that gracefully. So I'm actually going to kick off the evening tonight. Again, I'm Sarah Cioffi. I'm the academic administrator for World Languages 612 and ENL K-12 here at Shen. I also happen to be a very proud 1985 Shen grad, and I'm seeing some familiar names out there in the crowd this evening. So we want to just start by talking about the Seal of Biliteracy, and then my esteemed colleague Lisa Kissinger is going to take over and talk about the Seal of Civic Readiness. So with that, we just wanted to go over a couple of things just to be aware of tonight when we're on this virtual meet together. We'd ask that folks keep their microphones off. There is a link that I'll put into the chat. And we would ask that you use this link.
I'll do it, Sarah. You got enough to do.
Great. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. So Lisa's going to put that in the chat, and we'll come back and try to drop it in the chat every once in a while for folks that are still joining us. And we also just wanted to make you aware of the fact that we are recording this tonight. We will share this out with all of you later, but we also want to make sure it was available for folks that couldn't join us tonight. So we are recording right now. So for this evening, the agenda is first to talk about the Seal of Biliteracy, and then Lisa's going to try to sort of monitor the questions as they come in, and then we'll answer questions specifically about the Seal of Biliteracy, and then we'll switch to talking about the Seal of Civic Readiness, and I'll monitor the questions for Lisa. So if you could keep those questions coming into the Google Doc, the Google form that we share with you, that would be great. We're just concerned. We don't want to make sure we're not missing any questions that pop up or show up in the chat. And it's also a really good way for us to get a feel for what kinds of questions families have about both of the seals, so we can make sure that the information we're sharing is helpful and relevant to all of you. So with that, I would actually like to start with a video. This is a video that has been shared with students who are eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy. It's also been shared with juniors who joined me the week before last to learn about the Seal of Biliteracy. And it's also on our Seal of Biliteracy website. It answers quite a few questions about the Seal of Biliteracy. So I'm going to start with that. And then afterwards, I'll kind of dig in a little bit to some of the details in how to earn the Seal of Biliteracy. And Lisa, I'm going to hop over and play the video. Would you let me know if there's any problem with the sound?
Of course.
Assalamu alaikum.
Привет. 안녕하세요.
Goedemorgen.
Tonka
Guten Tag.
Do you know many Shen students can speak more than one language, and many more Shen students study a language other than English during their time here?
If you fall into one of these categories, then the Seal of Biliteracy may be an exciting opportunity for you.
The New York State Seal of Biliteracy is an award that celebrates students' ability to do work academically in both English and another language.
Seal of Biliteracy recipients proudly earn a medal as they cross the stage at graduation. They also earn a sticker on their diploma and have a special notation on their transcript.
Recipients of the seal must be able to demonstrate their proficiency in 2 or more languages in 4 skill areas: reading, writing, speaking, and listening.
Candidates can be students who speak another language at home or students who take Checkpoint C-level language courses here at Shen.
Here are a few reasons we offer the Seal of Biliteracy.
To honor the multiple cultures and languages in our community and to encourage students to study another language.
To prepare students with 21st century skills and to be college and career ready.
The seal is recognized on a national level.
The New York State Education Department set forth the following criteria to earn the Seal of Biliteracy. Students must earn 3 points in English and 3 points in another world language to earn the seal.
In English, a student can earn 1 point by getting a grade of 80 or above on the English regions. The final 2 points are earned by submitting a project in English that shows proficiency in reading, writing, speaking, and listening.
After applying to the program, SEAL candidates will complete a Google form that asks them to choose a project that they completed in any course and feel passionate about.
In other world languages, students can earn 1 point by earning an 85 or higher in their language course and on the final exam. The other 2 points can be earned by meeting an intermediate high proficiency level on a project they complete in their Checkpoint C level course.
To complete the process, students will present their English and world language projects at a Q&A panel interview during Regents Week.
For more information and to find a link to apply, check out our website.
Okay. So thank you for watching that video. Again, we shared that video with students sort of as a kickoff to the year when we're starting to prepare for the Seal of Biliteracy. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of recap what you saw in the video and hopefully share in a little bit more detail how this program sort of works. So, so the New York State Seal of Biliteracy is a seal on a student's diploma that recognizes that the student has attained a high level of proficiency in what we call in language the 4 modalities. So listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And the Seal of Biliteracy indicates that you have attained that level in both English and a language other than English, at least one language other than English. So that seal of biliteracy becomes part of your high school transcript and your diploma, meaning that the seal is on your diploma and the fact that you've earned the seal of biliteracy also goes on your transcript. And students also receive this medal. You can see it in the photo there, that they are given before graduation and they can wear during the graduation ceremony. So why earn the New York State Seal of Biliteracy? So because the New York State Seal of Biliteracy demonstrates your proficiency in more than one language, it really gives students a competitive edge, right, in the workforce when they're traveling, and also when they're applying to colleges. Future employers, college admissions like to know about the Seal of Biliteracy. It highlights the hard work that students have done during high school, and it celebrates the multilingual culture that we have at Shenendehowa. A lot of folks don't realize that there are over 50 languages that are spoken on our campus. And so it only seems appropriate that we would celebrate all of those languages, whether they be languages that we teach as part of our program or languages that our students speak at home in their families. And as you heard Christine Salm say in the video, it's actually a nationally recognized seal. There are really only a couple of states left that haven't recognized or offered the seal to their students. So this is something that students can take with them, not just in New York State, but outside of New York State as well. And so getting into sort of the details of how to earn the New York State Seal of Biliteracy, essentially students have to earn 3 points, and I'll explain what those points are. They have to earn 3 points in English and 3 points in a language other than English. So how do students earn 3 points in English? Now, what I'm going to show you is what the vast majority of Shen students do to earn their points, but understand that there are actually several options for students who are in unique situations. But again, this is just sort of the general pathway for most of our students. So to earn 1 of the 3 points in English, students have to earn an 80% or higher on the English regions. And then the vast majority of our students earn 2 more points for a total of 3 in the English side by submitting a project that demonstrates their proficiency, again, as we said, in reading, writing, speaking, and listening in English. That becomes their culminating project, and that culminating project gets presented to a panel of reviewers in June. So one of the things that's important to note about the project in English is that it does not need to come from an English course. It can actually come from any content area. We encourage students to pick some type of project or research that they've done in any content area. It could be biology, could be social studies, it could be an English course project. It just has to be in the English language. So the other 3 points that they have to learn are in a language other than English. So again, what I'm showing you is how the vast majority of our students earn their 3 points in a language other than English, but there are other pathways, and I'll talk about those briefly in a moment. So most of our students earn an 85% or higher in their Checkpoint C language course. That's how they earn 1 of their 3 points. One of the things I do want to point out is that you may have heard in the video that they also have to earn a certain score on the final exam in their Checkpoint C language course. That has actually changed this year. The New York State Education Department waived that during COVID and has now decided that it will no longer be a requirement. So students do not have to earn a certain grade on the final exam in their course. They just need to earn an 85% or higher in the course itself. And then similar to what we do in earning the English points, students submit a project that shows proficiency in those 4 modalities in a language other than English and present it to a panel of reviewers in June. Now, want to just make the point that we have many students at Shenendehowa who speak a language other than English, but who are not currently enrolled in a Checkpoint C SUNY course. We offer the Checkpoint C SUNY course in French, German, Latin, and Spanish. But again, we have, as I said, over 50 languages spoken on our campus. So we know we have many more students who speak languages very proficiently on our campus. And we want to really encourage those students to pursue the Seal of Biliteracy as well. So there are, as I said, other pathways for students in those unique situations. Just as an example, instead of earning an 85% or higher in your Checkpoint C language course, there are assessments that we can give students for them to earn the point. It could be an assessment in Chinese, it could be an assessment in Korean, it could be an assessment in a multitude of other languages. That's just one example. Again, we sort of have a menu of options to choose from. And when we have students who are not enrolled in a language and who are interested in the seal, there is a link that students have been given, and their counselors also have that link, and they can let us know that they're interested in pursuing the seal in a language other than one that's offered at Shen. So the culminating project ends with this panel presentation. And the panel presentation is sort of funny because it's the thing that students are most nervous about. And it really is just a 5-minute presentation in June. So if I back up a little bit and talk about the projects that they have been working on, one of the great things about our language programs at Shen, really all of our content areas, is that they are already so rigorous that the work that students are already doing in those courses can count toward the Seal of Biliteracy. So when we talk about students earning 2 points on the project for world languages, let's say, that project is already a part of their coursework. They're going to do that project anyway, simply because it's part of the SUNY Checkpoint course. So it really isn't even above and beyond what they're already doing in their courses. So really, when it comes down to it, the only thing that is sort of above and beyond what is already going to happen in their courses is this panel presentation. And so for the panel presentation, we're sort of debating this year whether we'll continue to do them virtually as we have done for the last couple of years. We'd love to do them in person again. We haven't quite decided that as a committee. We're sort of waiting to see how things go for the rest of the year. But essentially, students have 5 minutes. They take half of that time, so about 2.5 minutes, to talk about their English project in English. The panel, which is at least 2 people, sometimes more, will ask questions in English about the project. And then the student will switch to their world language and present on their project in their world language. And the panel will ask students some questions about that in the world language. And that's it. So for more information, you can contact your child's world language or ENL teacher. You can also contact your child's counselor, especially if you have a student who speaks a language other than English but is not enrolled in a language course at Shen. And then, of course, our Seal of Biliteracy website is a great place to get information. And on the Seal of Biliteracy website, there's a place where you can submit questions as well. And so just to give you some idea of how far we've progressed in the program, even though it's fairly new, in 2020, we awarded 139 seals to graduating seniors. And then in 2020-21, so last year, we awarded 236 seals to the Shen class of 2021. To give you a better idea, in 2020, we awarded just under half, awards to just under half of the number of students who were actually eligible to earn the seal. It was about 46% of eligible students earned it. Last year, 86% of eligible students earned it. So it really has taken off in a very short period of time, and students are really interested, and I think they see the value in the seal. So we've asked that you submit questions to this link, and I have said everything I need to say. So why don't we open it up to some questions that folks may have submitted?
So, Sarah, you have 3 questions, but the second question is very similar to the one that was just typed into the chat. So if a student had the interview during Regents Week this past June of 2021, when will they officially be notified of the seal being granted? And should it, hold on, I got to read the rest of the question. Should it show on the unofficial transcript now?
So that's an excellent question. I'm so glad that whoever asked that question asked it. So we notified students, or sorry, I shouldn't use the word notified. We did let students and families know at the end of the of June Regents Week that it would be sometime in the fall before we were able to actually grant the seal of biliteracy. There are several reasons for that. Not the least of which is that we have hundreds of students that we need to review, and multiple components for all of those students, for each of those students. And so it's a pretty painstaking process that is reviewed by a committee. So at this point, so last year we notified students in early December. We are shooting for an earlier date this year. We've had a bit of turnover on our committee, which has slowed things down a little bit, but we're still shooting for sometime in the month of November. So thank you for that question.
Okay. Another question is...
Oh, and I'm sorry, Lisa. I think there was a second part to that question too about the transcript. So it will not appear on the transcript just yet. It will appear on the transcript once it's been awarded officially. And I do also want to mention that we encourage all students, if they're applying to colleges and they want colleges to know that they're in the process of, earning the seal or waiting for notification, we encourage them to list themselves as Seal of Biliteracy candidates on their applications. Thanks.
Next question is, my child is a freshman. When would they be enrolled in the Checkpoint C language course?
Oh, another great question. Thank you for asking that. So the vast majority of students of our students start completing the components of the Seal of Biliteracy in their junior year. That's because most of our students in the Checkpoint C SUNY 1 level courses are juniors. I do also want to mention that is the majority of our kids, but we certainly have some seniors who joined us late, and we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to earn it as well. And we have some students, frankly, who were missing components last year, for example, or who just missed the mark by a couple of points on a component. And we do invite them to try again their senior year. So they have an opportunity to try again to get the components that they might not have gotten.
So that sounds like that's an answer to the question that was just typed into the chat too, right? For the seal in a language that's not offered, is it too late now for the 12th grader to start the process?
Absolutely not too late. And we would love to have a student who speaks a language that is not offered at Shannon, who is not in that language course, to let us know that they're interested in doing it. Typically, just so folks know, what we'll do is, again, there's a link that students can get from their counselor, or they can get it from me. If they just shoot me an email, I can certainly send it to them. They can also get it from any world language teacher. But that link is just a quick sort of notification to the Seal of Biliteracy Committee that there is a student who's interested in earning the seal in a language that's not offered on our campus. And then that student will be paired up with a teacher who serves as an advisor to that student. And that teacher will reach out to the student and help them understand, what the components are and how to get started, and then help them through that process. So thanks for that question.
You see the other one in the chat, right?
In the chat. So how do students get evaluation for 1 point beside 2 points from the project if they choose languages that Shen doesn't offer? Great question. So actually several ways that they can do that. I'm going to use some acronyms that some of you as parents will recognize right away and others may not. So for example, if your child is an English language learner, they take an assessment every spring that shows their progression in learning English, and a certain score on that assessment, it's called the NICE slot. A certain score on that assessment is one way that a student can earn a point. Another way that a student can earn a point is by taking an assessment in that language. So just as an example, we had several students who approached us a couple of weeks ago and let us know that they're interested in earning the seal of biliteracy in Korean and English. We do not have Korean on our campus. So what we'll do is we'll set that student up with an assessment, and there's sort of a menu of different types of assessments that we purchase. And the student will take that assessment and it will assess their language skills in Korean, and they can earn their point that way. It really starts to become a bit more personalized and tailored to the student depending on the language. And there is no language that is off limits. We have several students who have approached us this year who speak very low incidence languages. One of them, admittedly, I had to Google because I'd never heard of it before. There probably isn't a traditional assessment out there for them, but in those cases, we'll work closely with the state education department to find some way to assess that student's proficiency in the language. There is no language to which we'll say no. So I hope that helps.
One more question. I think you've answered it again, but it wouldn't hurt to just sort of say the answer quickly again. The question is this done in June of each year of high school or just senior year? I think I know the answer, but I think the answer is junior year, but that'll be
correct
if I was paying attention.
Yeah. So most students do it in June of their junior year. And that's because most of their components have been completed by the end of junior year, right? They'll have taken the English regions, they'll have completed their presentation. They will have completed the SUNY 1 Checkpoint C course. It is not off limits to seniors at all. It's just the bulk of students start, pulling those components together in their junior year.
Okay, those are all the questions that we have in the form, in the Google form. And I think we answered everything in the, there's one more there's two more.
Okay, yeah. And so
that popped up in the chat. Okay.
Thanks, Margaret. So that's a great question. And yes, students can earn more than one seal. In fact, we have had students the past couple of years earn 2 seals because they spoke 2 languages other than English, but there is no limit to how many seals students can earn. So some students will graduate, and we anticipate that we have at least one student this year who will earn 3 seals of biliteracy. It certainly becomes much less common, but we absolutely want to celebrate that, that level of multilingualism, right? So, and then I think there was one more. What if they did everything last year when they were a junior? Is there anything else they need to do for this year? No. So if they completed everything as a junior, right now they're just, frankly, in a bit of a holding pattern while we're reviewing the hundreds of students that are eligible. If there is some component that needs to be reconsidered, so if the committee determines that a student did not meet all the criteria or is missing some component, the committee will let the student know what component is missing and encourage them to redo it. They don't have to redo everything, just the missing components, if that helps.
And then one more. Can a student earn checkpoint C in French, but do a project assessment in Chinese to earn the seal?
So that's a great question. I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So if a student is in checkpoint C in French, I first want to say that, and they also speak Chinese at home, for example, we would really strongly encourage the student to earn the seal of biliteracy in both French and in Chinese. However, if the student chooses one only, then the assessment, so all of the components have to be related to that language. In other words, we can't really mix and match languages, right? So if they have checkpoint C in French, they'll want to do their presentation in French as well. But again, they could really, frankly, pretty easily earn the seal in more than one language, and we'd love to see kids do that. Thanks for your questions, everyone. I'm going to certainly encourage you to keep adding questions to the Google Doc. I'm going to try to monitor the questions for Lisa as she takes over at this point. I'm going to stop presenting.
Okay, and I'm going to pick it up and share my screen and present. So our seal of civic readiness is in a very different state than the seal of biliteracy. We are very excited this year because we're part of the New York State Education Department program to pilot the seal of civic readiness in New York. So there are many questions that we still are trying to answer through this pilot, but we are excited to launch this at Shenandoah, and we're learning information about it every week as we go through the process. So just a quick review that New York requires students to have 4 units of credit in social studies in order to graduate. New York's very specific about what those credits should be. There are 2 global courses required, 1 U.S. history course, and in their senior year, students will take 2 semester courses, a participation in government course or a course that meets those requirements. At Shenandoah, we call our course National Issues Forum, or NIF, and an economics course. There are a variety of different ways that you can meet those requirements, but they are laid out in sequence. And as of today, New York is still requiring students to pass at least 1 social studies Regents exam in order to earn a diploma. So this year, as I said, we are piloting a seal of civic readiness in New York. There are 120 schools across the state. We are excited to be part of that pilot. Board of Regents approved this seal as an assessment pathway, which is very interesting. And when you look at the requirements or the options students have, I think you will also agree that that was an interesting decision on their part. What that basically means is that earning the seal of civic readiness can substitute for 1 social studies Regents exam. We do still offer 2, but again, you only have to pass 1. If you want to get the civic readiness pathway, you would earn the diploma seal instead of taking a 2nd social studies Regents exam. We are going to share both the presentation and the recording of the presentation. So within the slides of this presentation, I do include a link to the State Education Department's website so that you can read about the whole history of the Civic Readiness Initiative and see this seal in context of other actions that New York is taking to ensure that our students are graduating from high school civically ready to engage. The state has defined civic readiness as the ability to make positive difference in the public life of our communities through the combination of civic knowledge, skills and actions, mindsets, and experience. It's a very broad definition of that term. We talk to students about the advantages of earning the Civic Readiness Diploma Seal, and so far we have presented to students in our National Issues Forum class a similar presentation to what I'm going to give for you today. They got a little bit more detail, but they're hearing the same arguments that we are talking about with parents. So we believe the Civic Readiness Diploma Seal demonstrates students' ability to make informed decisions for the public good as members of a culturally diverse democratic society in an interdependent world, develop civic competencies which are necessary for our democratic society to flourish, the ability to identify and address problems in their community or school community, demonstrate respect for the rights of others, respectfully disagreeing with other viewpoints, and providing evidence for arguments and counter arguments. We also believe that this is an opportunity for students to show that they have excelled in social studies and also excelled as a participant in their school community. We believe that the Civic Seal shows that students are better informed and more likely to vote. They have learned how to work with other people to define and address problems, and they're more employable. We are only one of 5 states in the country that is offering a diploma seal related to civic engagement or civic readiness. This is a very, I would say, progressive or cutting edge opportunity for students in New York State. So we're going to learn more about how colleges and employers and military service really look at students that have earned a diploma seal, as this is such a new initiative across the country. So in New York, in some ways similar to the Seal of Biliteracy, but also very different, students are required to earn a total of 6 points. They have to earn at least 2 points from each column, but they have many options, many different ways within each of those categories to earn those points. So there are 2 categories. One category is the criteria for demonstrating civic knowledge. And as you scan down that category, you'll see that's related to courses that they've taken in social studies, how they've performed on the social studies Regents exams, and then if they have completed a social studies research project. The category, the option for demonstrating civic participation are very broad. One option is for students to complete a culminating high school civics project. They could complete a service learning project that includes a minimum of 25 hours of service, and then submit a reflective civic learning essay or presentation or some other product like a website that communicates what they have learned about civic engagement through the service learning project. They could, another option is to have to show that they have demonstrated mastery in an elective course that promotes civic engagement, and again, then submit this application of knowledge essay or presentation or product. Or they could demonstrate that they have participated in an extracurricular program or a work-based learning program that promotes civic engagement or civic action. The hour requirement on that is greater than service learning. That requires a minimum of 40 hours of participation. And then again, demonstrate that they have understood the application of civic knowledge, civic mindset, civic experiences, and produce an essay or a presentation or a product. The options are there for middle school capstone projects and a high school capstone project. So these are the options, requirements that were approved by the Board of Education in this pilot program. We anticipate that we will submit work samples of different options that kids choose, that students choose at Shenendehowa, as well as the other 120 schools will do that across the state. The Board of Regents will look at they may not look at all the work samples. I would imagine New York State Education Department staff will look at the work samples and then make recommendations to the Board of Regents about which one of these options makes the most sense, which will stay on the table for schools, and maybe some of them will go away. So we as part of the pilot had the opportunity to really test out some of these ideas. We made the decision as a social studies department to try to encourage students to choose options that were easily accessible and available and achievable to them. There are some things at Shen we just don't offer, and so we did not want to make it difficult for kids to earn the seal. So what I've just done is a theoretical example of a student that's a typical student in our program here at Shenendehowa, and the way they could earn points pretty easily. And then we'll talk about next steps. So for the civic knowledge column, everyone is required to earn those 4 units of credit to graduate from high school, whether they've taken Global 9 or Global 9 Honors or Global 10 or AP World History. It really, at this level, it doesn't matter. They will get points for that further down the chart, but at least at this point, you would earn 1 point if you have earned all 4 of your units of credit. So we are assuming that seniors this year, we're really focusing on seniors, on 12th graders, to try to get them to earn the seal. So we are assuming that students are on track to earn those 4 credits. And so we're assuming that our seniors are going to earn that 1 point for the courses required for graduation. Students, maybe one of the small benefits of trying to be in school during a pandemic is that New York State gave an exemption to students for the Global Regents exam in June of 2020, and they gave an exemption for the U.S. History Readiness exam last year. So all of our students that would have sat for those 2 exams earned 2 points, because you get a point for passing a Regents exam, and you can earn more than 1 point because there are 2 Regents exams. So all of our students automatically have sort of earned the 2 points for those exemptions. And then a typical student might have taken 1 honors or 1 AP class. So I just use as a sample that the child took World Culture Honors as a sophomore and earned then 0.5 points for that. You can earn half a point for every honors or AP course or super course that you've taken. There are many kids that have taken honors in 9th grade, AP in 10th grade and 11th grade, and are enrolled again in honors and super as seniors. That's a number of points they could earn from that advanced social studies course row in the chart. So our typical sample student has just earned 3.5 points out of the possible 6 just by kind of going to school, doing what they're supposed to do, and then taking 1 honors course. On the other side of the chart, the civic participation side of the chart, what we have decided to do as a department is award students who are in the National Issues Forum course when they complete their Civics Responsibilities project, which is a portfolio that stands in as the final project for the course. We will award them 1.5 points for doing that. All students in NIF will do that final project anyway, whether they're trying to earn the seal or not. But we thought that that project, that portfolio aligned nicely with what the state has talked about as a civic responsibility project. What is a high school civics project anyway? And we think that we're demonstrating that in our NIF course. Students that are enrolled in the SUPA Introduction to Policy Studies course, will meet most of the requirements of the high school civics project. They'll have to do a couple of additional things that they'll be easily able to do on their own. And so that Mrs. Bonventry, who teaches the SUPA Intro to Policy Studies course, and I are working on a document, a handout that we can give to students to explain how they can meet the requirements for the civic project through their policy studies course. Then students have an option of how to earn the rest of the points that they might need in this category. They can either complete a service learning project, as I talked about, that has the minimum requirement of 25 hours of service, and then a reflective essay or presentation or product that they would present to a panel similar to the Seal of Biliteracy, or they can demonstrate that they have been a participant in an extracurricular program or work-based learning experience and have done that for 40 hours. And again, do that application of knowledge, essay, presentation, or project. You notice the asterisks by both of those points mean that you can do that more than once, and you can receive points more than once for either one of those options if you want. So our typical student, I said he was an NIF. He or she was an NIF, earned 1.5 points by getting a 65 or higher on the final project for NIF. They decided to do a service learning project, and they did that presentation. They earned the point that way, and they are a member of class council. Notice I didn't say officer. So they're a participant in class council activities, and they made a presentation about what they learned about civic engagement from being involved in class council, and earned 0.5 points from that. So they earned 3 points on the civic participation side. Our sample student has earned more than the points that they need. They've earned 6.5 points, and they will be eligible to earn the diploma seal. So next steps, we, as I said, presented to NIF students, asked them to fill out a Google form if they were interested in this. We then took the responses to that form and invited them into a Google Classroom so we can communicate directly with those students through Google Classroom. I've added some assignments into the Google Classroom to give them directions for how to proceed with the service learning project, how to proceed with the extracurricular or work-based learning project, more details about that. And I've started to schedule half-an-hour meetings at various different times throughout the day for students so that I can explain those two options to them in more detail. We want them to fill out a student planning sheet, which is a way for them to start to plan out what they're going to do, what they need to do in order to earn the diploma seal. We'll be scheduling ongoing meetings with them throughout the fall semester. We'd like to hear student presentations in January of 2022. We're not sure whether we will have presentations to listen to at that point. That is part of the beauty of being in a pilot, is we got to figure out how long it takes students to actually do these activities. And we'll definitely have them in April of 2022. So we could know that students are eligible to earn the seal by late January or early February. And well, we anticipate most of them will probably be presenting to us in April. And we plan on awarding diploma seals with diplomas in June of 2022. So again, there's the link for questions if you have them. And then I just included our emails in the last slide of the presentation. If you have additional questions for us, you can email us directly. Maybe what I'll do is I'm going to stop sharing in a second, and I will copy those emails into the chat, and then will be if there are any questions for me, I would be happy to answer those questions.
So you do actually have one question.
Okay.
A second one just popped up. So the first question is, can the civic project or the service project be from prior years? For example, the Change the World project in a prior year, or the CAP Teens participation in the junior year.
The Change the World project was done when kids were in 9th grade, I believe. And I would say the recency on that is that's too old. So we're really looking for students to have done projects more recently than that. Going forward in the future, that may not be true, because going forward in the future, we're not going to rely on just our 12th graders to be eligible for this. We're going to be talking about this with students as they are younger. And so as they are keeping records or connecting Change the World project research they may do to actions they may take in their community, then I think that the answer I might give then would be more of a yes. And I tended to give today as the answer to that is a no. If students have completed service with CAP Teens or some other organization like that earlier, prior to this school year, they're gonna have a documentation issue, because we are going to require documentation that they met the hours requirement. Those hours requirements come from state ed, not from Shenandoah. So that might be a challenge in trying to go back and say, oh, I did this volunteer service last year, but I don't actually have any evidence of that. In addition, they do need to write or present or do a product of some kind related to their understanding that they gained from the experience. That could not have been done last year, so that has to happen this year. But again, I'm going to be doing these individual meetings with kids. The goal is not to keep kids from earning the seal. The goal is meeting the requirements in a way that's doable, because we understand with seniors, they're very busy. So they may, in fact, be involved in other things this year as seniors that could easily be used as options to meet the requirements for the seal. They may not even know it.
So you actually have another question that was submitted. You may have sort of partially answered it, but can my freshmen start earning points now? And if so, whom should she contact if interested?
So if the student is a freshman, the best thing for them to do is email me, and then I will share. I probably would even invite them into the Google Classroom, because we would share the resources. If they were interested in doing service learning and starting to accumulate hours, we can share the resources for them so that they can start to track that and create that documentation record. similar to the answer to the question, is it a specific form that's needed to record volunteer hours? Yes. And that is going to be, that is actually part of the service learning assignment that is already added to the Google Classroom. So if the child has indicated that they were interested in doing this, they were sent an email last week that said, here's the code to Google Classroom, go ahead and sign up for the classroom. So the service learning and the extracurricular project assignments, as well as the student planning sheet, are already in the Google Classroom for students to access.
And then do you see, Lisa, that there's a question in the chat for you?
I think I just answered that one.
Oh, is that the one? Okay.
Yeah, Margaret's question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do notice that a question came in about the seal of biliteracy. And that question is there an application form and how do you apply for it? So another great question. Thank you for that. There is, students do not need to apply or register if they are currently in a Checkpoint C world language course. So all of the students that are looking to earn the seal because they're currently in a course, they are automatically candidates for the seal of biliteracy. They actually have to opt out of earning the seal of biliteracy. And if students do opt out, typically it's by not submitting an English project or not completing the panel presentation in June. If your child is not in a world language Checkpoint C course, there's not an application necessarily, but there is that link that I mentioned that students can get from their counselor. And that link is really more of a notification to the committee that there's a student who's interested, and then we'll reach out to that student to talk to them about completing the components.
Thanks. That's nice, Margaret. Thank you. I did want to add one other thing is that, you know, like I keep saying, this is a pilot, so we're learning lessons every week with this. We have done the presentations to students through the National Issues Forum class and then realized, oh, half of the senior class is in economics for a semester. And so the economics teachers are not the go-to people on the civics diploma seal in the same way that the NIF teachers are. The NIF teachers, we work together over the summer to develop the assignments that I referred to in Google Classroom. They've sort of helped sort of thresh through the details on all of this. But we're going to ask the economics teachers to present it to students because students may want to start now. We think that they can still complete the requirements second semester, but some students may want to start working on it now. So we will be asking the economics teachers to present to their classes about it. But again, my email is in the chat, as is Sarah's. And I would just encourage anyone, any mom or dad here who thinks their child hasn't heard enough about the Civic Readiness Diploma Seal to just reach right out to me, send me an email, and I'm happy to set up a meet, answer any questions, add them to the Google Classroom, you know, sort of get them going and pushed out on their way out of the nest to try to earn this diploma seal.
And I would jump on what Lisa just said as well for the seal of biliteracy. If there's any confusion at all about, you know, whom to contact about getting started with it, you can always reach out to me and I can help you get started or direct you to the right person who can. So you at least now have a couple of faces with the programs that you know you can reach out to if you need to get started with somebody.
Right. Look at that. We're going to end on time or even a little early. How about that, Sarah? 6:54.
Awesome. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will hang back a little bit if folks have questions and want to turn on cameras and chat or ask any questions. I'm happy to stick around. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see your kids looking to earn both seals. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.